Today we're going to practice comparing fractions that have the same numerator. Let's look at our vocabulary. Remember, a fraction is a number that names a part of a whole or part of a group. A numerator tells you how many parts are being counted, and that's your top number. And the denominator tells you the total number of equal parts in the whole or the group, and that will be your bottom number. And since we're comparing numbers, let's go over our comparison symbols. When it's greater than, it's going to open to the left. Less than, it's opening to the right. And equal to is an equal sign. And the alligator always eats the larger amount. And like we talked about yesterday, that means the alligator is going to eat the bigger shaded pieces. Whatever's shaded more is what the alligator wants. So let's practice comparing some fractions. We're comparing 1/3 and 1/5. And I see both of them have a numerator of 1. And the denominator, I see 3 and 5. And I'm going to compare my denominators. That's the number of pieces in the whole. And when I'm comparing denominators, I want to think, which way am I going to get more? If I divide a pizza into 3 pieces, or if I divide the pizza into 5 pieces. So for 1/3, I'm going to shade 1 out of 3 pieces, and for 1/5, I shade 1 out of 5 pieces. So which way am I going to have more pizza? If I eat 1/3 of the pizza, or 1/5 of the pizza? And remember, the greater fraction will have the larger amount of the whole shaded. So if we look at what we shaded, we can see that 1/3 has more shaded, so 1/3 is greater than 1/5. The fewer pieces you have, the bigger those pieces are going to be. You always want to look at how much is shaded. Don't just look at the actual numbers. Look at the amount of the whole. So use the word bank to fill in the blanks in your notes, and we will check these in class tomorrow. So your choices are larger and smaller. In your first sentence, the more pieces a whole is divided into, the blank the pieces are. And next we have the fewer pieces a whole is divided into, the blank the pieces are. So you have to take one word, larger is going to go in one blank, and smaller goes into the other blank. And we'll check our blanks tomorrow. Let's try a word problem now. It says, on Saturday, the campers paddled 2/8 of their planned trip down the river. On Sunday, they paddled 2/3 of their trip down the river. On which day did the campers paddle farther? So my important information, on Saturday, they paddled 2/8 of their planned trip. And on Sunday, they paddled 2/3 of their trip. And we're trying to figure out on what day they paddled farther. So I'm looking for my greater fraction. So I want to compare 2/8 and 2/3. I have one whole, and then I divided that whole into 8 pieces for Saturday's fraction, and 3 pieces for Sunday's fraction. First I'm going to shade 2/8, then shade 2/3. Then I'm going to compare the shaded parts. So for 2/8, I shade 2 pieces, and for 2/3, I shade 2 pieces. Then it makes it easy for me to compare the shaded parts. I'm looking for which one has more shaded. So 2/8 compared to 2/3, which one's greater? I can see that 2/3 has more shaded in, so that's the piece the alligator is going to eat. So I would read that 2/8 is less than 2/3. And since 2/3 is Sunday, the campers paddled farther on Sunday. Shade the models on your paper, then compare the fractions. Remember, the greater fraction will be the one with more of the whole shaded. I'll give you a few minutes to work and then we'll check them together. If you need some extra time, pause the video and then press play when you're ready to check. Let's check our answers. If you still need time, pause the video now. First, we're comparing 1/8 and 1/3. I should have colored in one piece for 1/8 and one of the thirds, and then I can see that the 1/3 is greater, so 1/8 is less than 1/3. Next, we have 3/4 compared to 3/8. I shade in 3 of my 4 pieces and 3 of my 8 pieces. When I look at the shading, I see that 3/4 has more shaded, so 3/4 is greater than 3/8. Last, we're comparing 3/6 and 3/6. I shade in 3 of my 6 pieces and 3 of my 6 pieces. And when I look at my models, I can tell that they are equal, so 3/6 is equal to 3/6. How did you do? Now you try one on your own. Answer the question on your paper. Remember, the greater fraction will have the larger amount of the whole shaded or be closer to one whole on a number line. Pay special attention to the size of the pieces.